Compassion's Crescendo, how amplifying black voices can transform business and society. Welcome to this special TED Talk where we're about to embark on a journey that will challenge your perceptions, warm your heart, and hopefully ignite a spark of change within you. Today, we're diving deep into the transformative power of compassion, particularly in amplifying black voices in the business world and beyond. But before we begin, I want to acknowledge the incredible individual who inspired this talk, Makeshia Nelson, a visionary leader whose insights have not only shaped this discussion, but are actively reshaping our understanding of compassion, leadership, and community empowerment. Makeshia's tireless efforts to create a more inclusive and equitable world have touched countless lives, and her wisdom continues to light the way for a brighter, more compassionate future. Now, let's start with a question that might make you squirm a little in your seat. When was the last time you truly, deeply listened to someone whose life experience is radically different from your own? Yeah, really listen. Without judgment, without interruption, without that little voice in your head preparing your rebuttal. If you're anything like me, you might be realizing it's been a while. And that's okay. We're all works in progress. But here's the thing. In that gap, in that silence where we're not listening, we're missing out on a world of insight, innovation, and yes, compassion. Makeshia Nelson's message is simple yet revolutionary. To love is to listen. To be kind is to understand. To be compassionate is to ensure that every voice is heard. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds great on paper, but how does that translate to the cutthroat world of business? Well, buckle up because we're about to find out. Let's start with a story that might surprise you. Picture a boardroom in a top financial institution. Polished mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city skyline, the works. Now, who do you see sitting around that table? If your mental image doesn't include many black faces, you're not alone. And that's exactly the problem we're here to talk about. Enter Marco R. Williams, a fellow and VP at JP Morgan Wealth Management. Marco isn't just another suit in that boardroom. He's a trailblazer, a testament to what can happen when we create space for black excellence to flourish. But Marco's journey to that boardroom wasn't a straight shot. It was more like trying to navigate a maze blindfolded while juggling flaming torches. You see, Marco was part of the Black Executive Leadership Program offered by the American College of Financial Services. Now, before you roll your eyes thinking this is just another diversity initiative, let me hit you with some numbers that might make you sit up straight. 69% of black financial professionals report a lack of access to senior leaders. 61% face challenges that directly impact their success. Let that sink in for a moment. We're not talking about a slight disadvantage here. We're talking about a systemic roadblock that's keeping incredible talent from reaching its full potential. But here's where it gets interesting. This program isn't about handouts or tokenism. It's about equipping talented individuals with the tools they need to shatter those glass ceilings. It's about creating a network of peers who understand the unique challenges faced by black professionals in the financial sector. It's about changing the face of leadership in one of the most influential industries in our economy. And the results, they're nothing short of extraordinary. Marco didn't just participate in the program. He used it to construct a roadmap to success. Think about that for a moment. A roadmap. Because sometimes the hardest part of any journey isn't the obstacles in your path. It's not knowing which path to take in the first place. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, that's great for the financial sector, but what about other industries? I'm glad you asked because this is where things get really exciting. Let me introduce you to the Empower Black Professionals Network at JLL. Now, I know what you're thinking, another corporate diversity initiative, right? Wrong. This network is redefining what it means to support black talent in the corporate world. With over 2,900 members across the Americas, this isn't just a support group, it's a movement. They're not just talking about change, they're making it happen. From professional development webinars to mentorship programs, they're creating a culture where black professionals don't just survive, they thrive. And let me tell you, the results speak for themselves. Their Black Excellence Summit isn't just an event, it's a launch pad for high potential black talent to learn from industry leaders. It's a place where dreams are nurtured, where potential is recognized, and where the next generation of black leaders is being forged. But here's the kicker, and this is something Makeshia emphasized repeatedly in our conversation. These initiatives aren't just about business success. They're about changing the narrative. They're about showing the world that black excellence isn't the exception. It's the rule when given the chance to flourish. Now,
I can see some of you shifting uncomfortably in your seats. Maybe you're thinking, this all sounds great, but I'm not in a position to start some grand initiative. And that's okay, because compassion, the kind that Makeshia talks about, the kind that can change the world, it starts small. It starts with you. It starts with mentoring a colleague from a different background. It starts with speaking up in meetings when you notice certain voices aren't being heard. It starts with challenging your own biases and being willing to be uncomfortable in the pursuit of true equity. But let's take it a step further, because listening isn't enough. Understanding isn't enough. We need action. We need to create spaces where Black professionals and entrepreneurs don't just have a seat at the table, they help build the table. And this brings us to our final story, one that I think will resonate with many of you. It's the story of the Black Business Initiative, BBI, in Denver. Now, starting a business is hard. Starting a business as a Black entrepreneur, that's like climbing Everest in flip flops. Limited access to capital, lack of established networks, systemic biases. The deck is stacked against these brave individuals from the start. But BBI is changing the game through workshops, training sessions, and events like the Black Ball Summit. They're not just teaching business skills, they're building a community. They're creating a space where Black entrepreneurs can share their struggles, celebrate their victories, and lift each other up. And the impact? It's nothing short of transformative. Organizations like the Foundation for Black Entrepreneurship and the Colorado Black Chamber of Commerce didn't just spring up overnight. They're the result of BBI's tireless efforts to build the infrastructure needed to support Black entrepreneurs in the region. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment, imagine a world where every voice is heard, where every talent is nurtured, where every dream has the chance to become reality. That's the world Makeshia envisions. That's the world we can create if we have the courage to embrace compassion, not as a weakness, but as our greatest strength. But here's the thing, this vision isn't some far off utopia. It's a world that's within our grasp if we have the courage to reach for it. It's a world that we can build. One act of kindness at a time, one inclusive decision at a time, one supportive community at a time. So I leave you with this challenge. What will you do differently after hearing these stories? How will you practice compassion in your professional life? How will you amplify the voices that need to be heard? How will you support the Black professionals and entrepreneurs in your community? Because here's the truth. The power to change our world doesn't lie in grand gestures or sweeping policies. It lies in the small daily choices we make. It lies in choosing to listen when it would be easier to speak, in choosing to understand when it would be easier to judge, in choosing to act when it would be easier to remain passive. Makeshia's message is a call to action for all of us. It's a reminder that in a world that often seems divided, compassion has the power to unite us. That in a business landscape that can be cutthroat, kindness can be our greatest competitive advantage. That in a society that often overlooks the contributions of Black professionals and entrepreneurs, we have the power to shine a spotlight on their incredible talents and achievements. As we wrap up this talk, I want you to remember this. Every voice matters. Every story deserves to be heard. And every act of compassion, no matter how small, has the power to change a life, a community, and ultimately our world. So let's take Makeshia's wisdom to heart. Let's love more deeply, listen more intently, and act more compassionately. Let's create a world where Black voices aren't just heard, they're celebrated. A world where Black professionals and entrepreneurs don't just succeed, they soar. Because when we embrace compassion, when we practice inclusive leadership, when we support our communities, that's when we truly thrive. That's when we create a world where everyone, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to reach their full potential. As you leave this talk today, I challenge you to look for opportunities to put these principles into action. Mentor someone who doesn't look like you. Support a Black owned business. Speak up for inclusion in your workplace, because it's through these small acts that we create big change. Remember, the power to transform our world lies within each of us. It's in the choices we make every day. It's in the way we treat each other. It's in the compassion we show, the understanding we extend, and the support we offer. So let's make a commitment right here, right now, to be the change we want to see in the world, to amplify Black voices, to support Black excellence, and to create a more compassionate, inclusive, and equitable world for all. Because here's the beautiful truth: when we lift others, we all rise. When we amplify silenced voices, we create a symphony of progress. When we lead with compassion, we don't just change businesses, we change lives. So I ask you, are you ready to be a part of this change? Are you ready to challenge your assumptions, to step out of your comfort zone, to be a beacon of compassion in a world that desperately needs it? The journey won't be easy. There will be moments of doubt, of frustration, of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But I promise you this: it will be worth it, because every time you choose compassion over indifference, every time you amplify a voice that's been silenced, every time you support a Black professional or entrepreneur, you're not just changing their world, you're changing ours. And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back on this moment as the turning point. The day we decided that compassion wasn't just a nice to have, but the very foundation of our society. The day we committed to creating a world where every voice is heard, every talent is nurtured, and every dream has the chance to become reality. So let's get to work. Let's make compassion our compass. Let's amplify Black voices until they become a roar that can't be ignored. Let's create businesses, communities in a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Because when we do that, when we truly embrace the power of compassion, we don't just change the game, we create a whole new one, a game where everyone wins, a game where success is measured not just in profits, but in lives improved and dreams realized. Are you ready to play? Because the world is waiting, and the time for compassion, for action, for real lasting change, that time is now. Thank you